Scale drawings, scale up or scale down. This is a digital lesson, and this one is St. Patrick's Day themed. So the lesson starts with explaining what a scale drawing is, and then it gives students some vocabulary. So they're going to need to know this vocabulary when they get to the final slide and they have some drag and drop vocabulary words to place in sentence frames. So they're going to start on slide 4. This is a lot of fun for the students. They're going to use the fill color feature of Google Slides to create their scale drawings. So the first one's fairly simple. It's just a rectangle 3 by 2 units. And if we scale it up by a scale factor of 2, that means we're multiplying the units on each side by 2. So now they want a 6 by 4 scaled up rectangle. So to do that, they're just going to click and hold one of the squares that they want to color in. Click and hold, and then they can scroll across till they have 6 by 4. And then once it's shaded in, then they can come up here to the fill color feature, and they can choose any color they like. So this is same shape, but a larger size by 2. Now before they move on to the next one, we want to have them look at the perimeter and what happens when they scale up or scale down. So here, if they count the perimeter, the units around the outside, they're going to get 10 units. So you want to have them type in 10. Now if they count the perimeter, the units around the larger figure, they're going to get 20 units. And so you want to point out to them that what happens to the perimeter is they take their original perimeter and they're going to multiply by the scale factor to get the perimeter of the second figure. The next figure is a little bit different. This time they're scaling up by a scale factor of 3. So each of these measurements, the units are going to be multiplied by 3. So this will be 6. So they can only, and I'm going to redo this, they can only shade in a rectangle shape at a time. So they get that shape shaded in, and then choose a color, and then they can finish it over here. So each side multiplied by 3. So same shape, but 3 times larger. And again, let's look at the perimeter. If they count the units around the smaller figure or the original figure, it's 10 units. And if they count the perimeter around the second figure, it should be 30 units. And again, point out to them that we're going to take that original figure, take the perimeter, and multiply by the scale factor to get the perimeter of the second figure. The next one is a little bit tricky for the students, so you might want to start it and then with the students and then let them figure out how to finish it. So this one we're going to scale up by a scale factor of 3. So they might take just this little square here 1 by 1 and change it to a 3 by 3. And they're going to do that all the way around. And you might stop there and see if they can finish it on their own. And it should look like this. And there is a teacher key so you can see how these are supposed to look. Okay, now let's look at the perimeter. Let's see if they can predict this time. So if they count around the outside of this figure, they're going to get 12 units. And see if they can predict the perimeter of the second figure. It should be 36 units. All right, now a little recap on the next slide. So when the scale factor is 2, the perimeter of the new figure is 2. They're going to type in the word 2 times the perimeter of the smaller figure. When the scale factor is 3, the perimeter of the new figure is 3 times the perimeter of the smaller figure. And that's when you're scaling up. Now the next slide is going to show when you're scaling down. So if the scale factor is a fraction less than 1, that means our new figure is going to be smaller. So we're going to multiply each of these measurements by 1/2 or divide by 2. So the next figure will be 3 along the top. We're going to make sure we keep that little center piece. and 3 along each side. And then that center square is 2 by 2. So we're going to divide by 2 and we'll get a 1 by 1 square in the center. The next one's a little bit tricky. This is an arrow shape, so you might want to do this one with the students also. We're going to scale this down by a scale factor of 1/2. Now these diagonals are going to be tricky, so we want to start them at the bottom. They have these pieces that are movable, and they have these little blue circles on the end if they click on them. And if they click on the blue circle, click and hold, then they can move this into place. So if we start at the bottom, this is 4 units going across, and we multiply times 1/2, we're going to get 2 units. Same thing along each of these sides. Then they've got these little pieces here are 2 units. They divide by 2 or multiply times 1/2. They'll now be 1 unit. And they might want to play around with these a little bit. They're just a little bit tricky to move. Now, the next thing we want to do is find the tip of that arrow. So if we count up from the bottom, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units from the bottom all the way up to the tip of that arrow. So if we divide by 2, 8 divided by 2, it'll now be 4 units up to the tip of that arrow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the tip will be here. So all they have to do is move these pieces so we connect this to the tip of our arrow. And there we have an arrow shape that is 1/2 the size of the original. Now the next thing we want to look at in this lesson is what happens to the area. So here we have a 3 by 3 square. We're going to scale it up by a scale factor of 2, which would give us a 6 by 6. So they're going to highlight a 6 by 6 square. Come up here, choose a color. And then let's look at the area. So the area of the smaller figure, the original figure, 3 by 3 will be 9 square units. And then the larger one, 6 by 6, will be 36 square units. Now we can't just multiply by the scale factor because that doesn't give us 36. But we might want to have the students see if they can predict how we can figure out the area of the larger figure. So what they have to do is they have to multiply the area of the original figure by the scale factor squared. So 2 squared would be 4. We multiply 9 times 4 and we get 36. And they're going to do the same thing on the next figure. And then a recap on slide 12. So when the scale factor is, and they're going to type in 2, the area of the new figure is 2 squared, or 4 times the area of the smaller figure. When the scale factor is 3, the area of the new figure is 3 squared, or 9 times the area of the smaller figure. And then when they get down to this final slide, they've got these drag and drop vocabulary terms. So a scale drawing, so they just click and hold on the edge, and they're going to move all these terms into the correct place. Actually, that one doesn't work. Scale drawing is what I wanted. And that one fits. And they're going to move every single one of these into place in the sentence frames. So that is the complete lesson of scale drawings, the St. Patrick's Day version.